Welcome to Shadow Mind, where raw philosophy meets the dark edges of human psychology. Today, we dive into a question as old as myth, as dangerous as desire itself. Why do women want dangerous men? Not all women. Not all the time. But again and again, in stories, in real life, in whispers behind closed doors, we encounter this magnetic pull toward the rebel, the outlaw, the one who walks on the edge of chaos. Why? Is it madness? Evolution? Or something deeper, something that even reason dares not fully explain? Let's begin. From ancient mythology to modern cinema, the dangerous man appears again and again. Prometheus, who defied the gods. Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. James Dean, the dark-eyed stranger in every romance novel who walks alone, carries pain, and hides a story. He's not always violent, but he's unpredictable, uncontrolled, unapologetically alive. And that is dangerous, especially in a world that tries to tame everything. What makes this archetype so irresistible to some women? Jungian psychology might say, he represents the shadow, the part of ourselves that society taught us to suppress. Wildness, freedom, risk, power. To desire him is to desire reunion with that shadow. To remember that life isn't just about safety. It's about intensity. Imagine, thousands of years ago, a world where survival depended not just on food and shelter, but on protection from predators, warring tribes, famine, disease. In that world, a man's physical strength, dominance, and fearlessness weren't just admirable traits, they were necessary ones. A man who could take risks, who wasn't afraid to fight or break rules, who had confidence to lead, he offered more than excitement. He offered security. For a woman, choosing a partner wasn't just about love. It was about survival, for herself and her children. Even today, we carry the echo of those instincts. The dangerous man archetype, the rebel, the rule breaker, the confident outsider, signals traits that were historically beneficial: dominance, assertiveness, status, risk tolerance. Even if modern life no longer requires brute force to survive, our subconscious mind still responds to signals of strength and emotional intensity. Let's pause and clarify something important. Dangerous doesn't always mean violent, toxic, or abusive. In the context of attraction, dangerous often points to unpredictability, independence, emotional depth, or even moral ambiguity. It's not always the man who harms sometimes, it's simply the man who refuses to conform. And that, evolutionarily, has always been powerful. Now, let's talk about testosterone. Studies have shown that higher levels of testosterone are often correlated with features like square jawlines, deeper voices, and dominant behavior. Biologically, these markers can signal reproductive fitness. Many women, consciously or not, are drawn to these cues, especially at certain points in the menstrual cycle, when evolutionary drives are strongest. But again, it's not just about physical traits. It's about behavioral confidence. A man who walks into a room and commands attention, who speaks with conviction, who doesn't seek approval. These qualities suggest control, mastery, and the ability to navigate an unpredictable world. From a biological lens, this signals protection and power. Here's the twist, though. Not all women are attracted to dangerous men, and even those who may not choose to stay with them long term. Evolution doesn't operate on simple binaries. In fact, research has revealed something called the dual mating strategy. This theory suggests that women may be drawn to dangerous men for short-term passion, but choose safe men for long-term stability. One for fire, one for foundation. Evolution has designed attraction to be multidimensional and context-sensitive. And there's another layer: emotional stimulation. Dangerous men often evoke strong emotions. They keep you guessing. The highs feel higher because the lows are possible. That intensity triggers a rush of dopamine, the same chemical that fuels reward and pleasure. Love, especially when infused with uncertainty, becomes an addictive cocktail. The danger doesn't just attract, it excites. From a neurochemical perspective, unpredictability increases arousal. Think of it like a slot machine. You never know what you're going to get, and that makes it more thrilling. The same goes for emotionally volatile relationships. The man who's mysterious or emotionally distant often awakens a chase response, the desire to figure him out, to earn his attention, to win him. This chase taps into deep evolutionary programming, the pursuit of the valuable and the rare. There's also social psychology at play. In a world that increasingly pushes for uniformity and politeness, the man who breaks rules, who defies norms, who doesn't apologize for his presence, stands out. He radiates something primal, something ancient, something we might not consciously understand, but feel in our gut. And yes, this desire is sometimes controversial. Because in today's world, we rightly value emotional intelligence, respect, and equality. But attraction doesn't always align with values. You can be a feminist and still be drawn to a man who challenges you, even frightens you a little. Attraction isn't about virtue. It's about vulnerability and power, about who moves us emotionally and why. So, what does all this mean? It means that women who are drawn to dangerous men are not irrational, damaged, or confused. They're human, wired with thousands of years of evolutionary history, moved by signals we don't always see, but always feel. But we're not just biology, are we? We're also consciousness, reflection, intuition. That's why many women eventually learn or sense the difference between a man who is dangerous in a way that awakens them and one who is dangerous in a way that destroys them. Biology might pull us toward intensity, but wisdom teaches us to distinguish danger from depth and passion from poison. In the end, evolutionary psychology doesn't explain everything, but it offers one piece of the puzzle, one lens through which to understand a complex truth. That sometimes we're drawn to what once helped us survive, even if it no longer serves us now. Attraction is never just biological. It is also deeply philosophical, an expression of what we yearn for, what we fear, and how we seek to find ourselves through others. When we ask, why do women want dangerous men? We are not only asking about hormones or primal instincts. We're also asking, what do we crave in life? What is missing within us? Dangerous men often symbolize freedom, the kind that breaks boundaries, lives on the edge, and refuses to play by society's rules. Many women, especially those raised to be careful, polite, or self-restrained, may be drawn to that wildness as a form of rebellion not against others, but against the limitations placed on their own identity. Philosophers like Søren Kierkegaard talked about the aesthetic life, a life driven by passion, risk, and intensity, versus the ethical life, grounded in responsibility and order. Dangerous men often embody the aesthetic life. They live boldly, and for some, that is magnetic. It's not just the man they want, it's the freedom he represents. There's also the question of meaning. In a world that feels increasingly predictable and emotionally flat, a dangerous man introduces uncertainty, and with it, a sense of purpose. He becomes a puzzle, a question, a myth to decode. And often, it's in that very pursuit that women confront parts of themselves they didn't know existed, their rage, their desire, their need for intensity. But the dark side of this longing is projection. Women may project their own unlived dreams, their wounded inner child, or their craving for transformation onto the man. He becomes a mirror. And the danger? Sometimes it's not him at all. It's what he awakens. As Simone de Beauvoir wrote, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And in becoming, there is pain, struggle, growth, and often the flirtation with the dangerous. It is through contrast, through passion and loss, through risk and heartbreak that we evolve. In this way, the desire for a dangerous man is not a flaw, but a path. A spiritual riddle. A raw truth. The real question isn't just why women want dangerous men. It's what danger helps us discover about ourselves. There's a certain truth we often avoid in the conversations about attraction, desire, and danger. And it's this. Sometimes, what we chase in others is what we suppress in ourselves. In the case of women who are drawn to dangerous men, the pull may not always be about the man himself. It may not be about his tattoos, his mysterious silence, or his defiance of authority. Sometimes, the attraction is rooted in something far more intimate and haunting, an unconscious yearning to reconnect with the parts of the self that were exiled long ago. You see, many women grow up being taught to be good, to be pleasing, to be careful. They're told to avoid conflict, to always smile, to accommodate. And in the process, they often push down their own shadows, their anger, their wildness, their ambition, their chaos. But these disowned parts don't disappear. They live beneath the surface, waiting. And then along comes someone who embodies everything they've had to suppress. He's wild. He's unapologetic. He says no. He doesn't care what others think. And he does what he wants. In psychology, this is called projection. We see in the other what we cannot see in ourselves. And in that projection, a fire ignites. Not necessarily because we want them, but because we want us. We want to feel whole again. And danger, especially romantic danger, becomes a tool for emotional excavation. But here's where it becomes complicated. That longing can lead to healing, or it can lead to harm. The very things that attract us, unpredictability, rebellion, emotional intensity, can also become sources of deep suffering when boundaries are crossed or when the relationship turns toxic. So, what do we do with this knowledge? The first step is to look inward. To ask, what is this person reflecting back to me? What part of myself have I been denying, and why? Is this desire about connection or about completion? When women become aware of these internal dynamics, they begin to reclaim their own power. They realize that they don't have to find their wildness in another person. They can find it in themselves. They can dance with their own chaos, embrace their own danger, and live a life that is not just safe, but authentic. This isn't about rejecting desire or suppressing longing. It's about understanding it, giving it a voice, sitting with it in silence and asking, what are you trying to teach me? And often, the lesson is this. You don't want danger. You want depth. You want to feel alive. You want to break free from the cages built by culture, family, or fear. Dangerous men are not the problem, nor are they the solution. They are symbols of something deeper, of the internal revolution that many women are quietly fighting within themselves. The desire for more, for truth, for emotional honesty, for fire. In the end, philosophy reminds us that the examined life is the only life worth living. And when we examine our desires, when we sit with the uncomfortable truths they reveal, we begin to live not out of habit, but out of intention. You may have wanted a dangerous man, but perhaps all along what you really wanted was permission to be dangerous yourself. As we reach the end of this deep exploration, I invite you to sit with one final thought. Desire is never random. The people we're drawn to, especially those who unsettle us, often hold keys to the parts of ourselves we've buried, feared, or forgotten. The dangerous man, the rebel, the untamed spirit, he might walk into your life not to complete you, but to awaken you. And awakening can feel like falling apart. But it's not destruction, it's revelation. When a woman starts questioning why she's drawn to danger, she's not just asking about men. She's asking about her own hunger for life, her craving for truth, for chaos, for meaning. She's peeling back the layers of conditioning that told her to stay quiet, to stay small, to stay safe. And that, my friend, is where philosophy and psychology meet in the raw, unfiltered spaces of the soul. You don't need to seek danger to feel alive. You need to meet yourself fully, honestly, wildly. Because the most powerful transformation doesn't happen when you find someone who sets you on fire. It happens when you realize you were the fire all along. So as you leave this episode today, ask yourself not just why you are drawn to danger, but what within you longs to be free. And then, gently, start setting yourself free. Thank you for joining me in this shadowy, soulful dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and above all, stay wild.